Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Actually, I meant to ask you, Denise, if an F3 tornado was a black swan for Springfield area, because I know it flapped its wings up there. Yeah, yeah. That's. I want to say thank you to everyone too for that. A lot of hard work's been going on from, as Bliss mentioned, across the organization, contractors, all over. The ability to expand and contract is really the hallmark of the operations business, and a lot of good work got done. So thank you for that earlier. So. I want to start off in saying my name is Giuseppe Perniciero. I've been here for 11 whole months. So I think besides Lisa, I think I'm probably the youngest group here from being on site. I want to give you a little background of where I came from before I got into this. I'm an alum of the University of New Hampshire. I have a mechanical engineering degree, and after that went into the Navy as a civil engineer corps officer. That's my wife pinning me on to lieutenant several years ago. And held roles in the operations of public works, facilities engineering and acquisition, and also contingency engineering. We called that Operation One Cheek Sneak down here because we like to have a good time. Probably one of my favorite pictures right there. And then most recently, before coming to Northeast Utilities and Western Mass Electric, I was putting up industrial wind parks in upstate New York as construction manager and project manager. Really great transition from the generation on a smaller scale side, 100 megawatt wind parks, down into the distribution and operations side. But most importantly, I'm the assistant manager for customer operations in Western Mass Electric. That's what I've been doing for the last 11 months. And part of my charge with the assistant manager is overseeing the overhead lines department. So in developing my project, we sat down, we said, what's a good leadership challenge and what's going to directly affect my area work center. So we came up with 3 tenets to the project. The first one is with regards to taking WMECO's strategic goals, understanding them, and then boiling them down and making sure that they are communicated down to the folks under my charge. Now there's a field supervisor of lines, and then he has supervisor of lines, and then there's a line department. That's kind of a long path to go through. So we need to make sure that everybody gets that. And oh, by the way, not everybody wants to know everything about everything. So you have to individually figure out who wants to know what and know when to dial back or when to give them a little bit more. The second tenet is to follow my lead on this initiative so that they demonstrate accountability and ownership for our results. If you take this initiative out of here, essentially this is the hallmark statement for a leader. Okay? Any initiative, that's what we do as leaders. The third tenet, easily defined, not easy to do, is successful completion of our 2011 work plan. So these 3 components together are what make up my project. Short term is kind of, I would say, a loose schedule for this project. This is not a short term thing. We'll base it on a year, but quite frankly, we do this every day, and then we will do this forever. So it just depends on how you change these around a little bit. But overall, my project would be a year, which would be culminated with this last bullet here. So the 3 of these together, which is similar to what Mike's presentation was, where we're going. This is where we need to be at the end of the day. I like to use analogies. So if I were to take my 3 tenets and break them into lenses of a telescope, when those lenses are in alignment and you add your workforce, what you get is focused execution. Okay? So if I take my 3 goals before, line them up, you narrow it down, people know what to do, they're doing it right, they're doing it strong. Okay? But when any one of these gets out of alignment, our execution begins to diminish. So the key to this entire process here is making sure to either keep or get our lenses, our goals, back into alignment. And the way to do that, we know where we are, and we know how to get there. Very similar to Mike's. It's perfect. He lined it right out. It's a fundamental path to get from one place to another. Where we are. Anyone who's done map and compass work knows you can take the best bearing in the world, but you won't necessarily end up where you want to be if you have no idea where you are. So to do that, this is where my project is right now in this stage. I'm evaluating collectively and individually where my organization is, where these group of linemen are. Ask, talk to them. Ask them where they're at. So talk about comfort zone. That can be a little challenging. Okay? So what I've done is I've instituted kind of a memorandum, because I've let them do this at their leisure, but I engage them. So I've asked them a series of questions. They can answer all of them, they can answer none of them, they can ask me anything they want. We do it one-on-one, and I've been recording what I hear. A lot of skepticism there, okay? You know, what am I supposed to do? Go in and spill my guts to you? You know, I hear a lot of this different stuff, and that's not the case at all. So one of the things I'm really trying to do is break down these barriers with regards to us versus them. You know, understand that they can trust me, and that's going to take a long time, especially from a new guy, okay? Second is, what are the operating constraints? Real or perceived, I say. Operating constraints are budget, you know, resources, emotional constraints. That's a big one. You know, where do we have to operate? We do this, we've already been, engaging with this a lot from our understanding our processes. As being the new guy, I have to know how the machine works. So I take it one step at a time, and then we find out how that part works, how it interfaces with all sorts of other parts. And by doing this, we've made all sorts of contact. We have great contact with Gary Cronin up in New Hampshire from our call center. We have good contact with billing and services with regards to trying to figure out how to close out certain jobs. We have good contact with all sorts of folks across the organization. And that's good for a couple different reasons, as we discussed before. Knowing who to contact. Faces are great. If you get to meet these people, I can't believe how well that works. But ultimately, we understand how our processes affect other processes. So that's the two sections I'm at in my project. Like I said, kind of a year process, but honestly, we do it every single day. And as I started out with, evaluate collectively and individually, once I understand where we stand, where we're going, where we are, how we get there, just like Mike's, just the roadmap. This is the macro and micro level plans to go from there to there. We already know our goals, so to do this, we've developed these tactical actions to get us there. I'm not at this stage of the project yet. I'm still in that evaluating stage, but like I said, this is not a series type event. This happens all the time. We make this decision every single day on these small little tactical actions on how to get to your ultimate goal. So, the Marines said it best: shoot, move, and communicate. Now, I don't want that to be confused with go off, throw something against the wall, and see what sticks. This is based on our plan of where we are and where we're going, and the small plans in between there. So please don't confuse that. Translated another way is we're executing what we need to do, we're adapting to whatever situation comes up, which is a constant evolving thing, and we're still communicating. The communication part, we've heard, I think, through everybody's project, is ultimately key. So my final thoughts, from a leadership standpoint, these are not aha moments for me. You know, we talked about this. I actually talked with Stephen, and I said, you know, I was having some trouble. How should I wrap this up? And he said, you know, we want to be able to say what we've done, where we're going, and kind of how we've used leading from the middle. Not much in leading from the middle was an aha. There was a couple. But these are things that we're supposed to be doing every day, but we forget because we get buried into something. It's just something that once you realize it, you say, God, of course we do that. And then you say, well, maybe I don't do that. Being able to take a beating, okay? As a leader, you've got to be able to do that. And I would say, and maintain your composure, okay? Because go into a group of linemen and say, how does that make you feel? You know what I mean? And see what comes out of that conversation. It's okay, because you get a lot of good information back. That's the key. But you get a lot of information that is tough to take, too. You got to maintain your composure. People like Lieutenant Commander John McCain, Admiral Jim Stockdale, those are great books to read, prisoners of war in Vietnam, about maintaining their composure under the most adverse conditions. Some of the best readings I've ever done. Micro-messaging. Got a little lesson in this the other day. Had a person who was very, very upset in their face. A couple days passed, okay. A couple more days passed, I talked to their supervisor, hey, is he okay? You know, what's going on here? A couple more days passed, I pulled him aside. I can see something's on your face, what's wrong? He said, well, you. Okay, better sit down on this one. It was a seemingly simple conversation I'd had with this individual, very benign situation that came across so incorrectly that he had carried this along with him for now going on 2 weeks, okay? Had I not engaged him and made sure to talk with this person about that, that could have carried on, that could have stifled progress and production, that could have done a number of things. That was a very important lesson for me. I had no idea it even happened. So now I'm very cognizant I've always tried to be cognizant of my micromessaging. I'm very cognizant from that aspect. Change takes a long time. We mentioned the 8 steps. You know, skip one of those steps, you're in a world of trouble. That's for sure. But also it does take a long time. And if you saw in the beginning of my presentation, shh, don't tell anybody. This is not an initiative I want to promote to the group. This is something that I want to take to my line force as actions, as fundamentals. And one of the things I was taught growing up in life is whenever you start getting in trouble, go back to your fundamentals, whether they're moral, whether they're technical, whatever they are, go back to your fundamentals. Drive those home, and that's what will carry the group through the change process. Don't worry about saying, hey, we're going out and we're changing this, or we're going out and we're doing this. Just do it, but know where you're going at first. That's what the leaders do. Get your management team involved and bring the people along. And ultimately, it's like a glacier, right? You slowly start to move, and people get picked up with it because you can't stop it. And that's the way to go. But you're constantly changing and evolving along the way. Thinking styles, we've talked about this a lot. Everybody's got a little bit different style. I think I'm a blue-green, which is analytical side. But also, I'm a very compassionate guy, too. So I'm very empathetic towards people. I want to say I'm more towards the center. So some people may agree or disagree with that. Political literacy. That was an interesting one. Sometimes what seems like the right, best, straightest answer is not right. It's not the right one. And that's okay. You got to pick it up and go with it based on the strategic direction of the company, of the organization, of the individual. So you have to be very sensitive to all those different things because we deal with this every single day, not just politically regulators, office politics. You know, there's a variety of different aspects to politics. So those are some of the things that I take away from leading from the middle that help me go along the journey of my project. But ultimately, being a long-term project, a year is a long time, really forever. But I'm in that gathering stage of information. So that's what I'd like to conclude with. And I appreciate everybody being here. I'm open to any questions you might have. Yes?
If I were to sort of put in a nutshell what you're trying to do, it seems like you're trying to enhance the effectiveness of your group. And I wonder if you found any opportunity in the crisis that you just went through up there to bring a few more along with you or use some of these principles in terms of getting them engaged?
Sure. Absolutely, opportunities abound when something like this happens. It's never perfect on a day-to-day basis, and it's definitely never perfect on a basis like that. However, and I was just talking about with a few folks earlier, when something of this magnitude happens, everybody comes together and they just start clicking. There's not, this is mine, you know, that type of thing. So what I think they saw from that was from the management team all the way down to anybody in the field doing any amount of work, that we were collectively together doing this work, trying to restore our customers to get back out there. Hopefully, they see that interaction, that hard work from everybody involved, and that's, you know, do as I say, or excuse me, do as I do, not as I say type of thing. So we're doing, and hopefully they see that, and that's the us versus them. You know, that's something that's very challenging in some organizations. So hopefully that was imparted on them.
Good.
Yes?
It just sounds like Mike and you and actually Denise hit on a key concept here, that whole responsibility triangle.
Yes.
What happens, everybody leaves their kind of colors at the door and they're focusing on the thing we're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Something like a disaster becomes very visible, so they know what it is. There's no, and then everything's about it, and the emotion gets left out. So all three of you hit on, when you talk about, when they're worried about the risk, they're still thinking about personal agendas, but when they focus on what they're trying to solve, it's amazing the difference in project groups. I've run lots of them. And to your point, they really understood the clarity of purpose, and then they left that they're just contributing. So you guys all hit on a theme there. It's how do you cultivate that over and over throughout our company?
That's right. I think that's the biggest thing, really, is how do you drag that through the day-to-day operations when you're going out and you're setting a pole for the day, not 200 poles type of thing. You're exactly right, and that's where we need to get to. And I think a lot of that it comes right back to trust. Trust me for me to remove the barriers for you to do your job. But then I need you to do your job, and I need you to do your job efficiently. So if one of these are out of alignment, that's my job, is to get them back into alignment. Yes.
Excellent presentation, Giuseppe.
Thank you.
A lot of the points you brought out really struck a chord with me. You mentioned 11 months in the company, and
Yes.
I'm just a manager fairly recently as well. So a lot of, and my presentation was, you know, bringing my team to success as well. So a lot of things you said struck a chord with me. And one of the questions I want to ask you, you said that you asked your folks in your group, it was, I guess the bullet item is, where are we? Where are we now?
Mhm.
And you asked for their input.
Yes.
How did you go about getting that input? Was it just from your supervisors? Was it also from your linemen? Was it written? Was it verbal? How did you go about doing it?
Sure, good point. I didn't differentiate, I meant to. So the supervisors, I collectively got them together, and we've had a series of team meetings in which they're, of course, formal because we're sitting down together, but informal. And we need to lay it out there, and we need to not hold back. And that's what we're starting to break through with the supervisory team. And they're starting to tell me, hey, this is what I think of this situation, this is what I think of this situation, this is where I think we should go. So I take that, and I'm a note taker. If anybody's seen me, I've actually got about a 3-inch binder for each quarter of the year. So but I don't write while I'm talking to them, so I take it back and I write it all down, okay? So then I'll take these guys one-on-one in the hallway, you know, out in the field is a great one, especially if you're going out doing an observation on field crews or that nature, and you talk to them, and you get them comfortable in saying, hey, look, I am not here to pump you for information to get this guy. I'm here to help to remove whatever barrier you have. Once they start to see that, and they are starting to see that from the supervision standpoint, they start to tell you more things. They're your key. The supervisors are your linchpin to getting work done. They are the interface between the workforce and management. I mean, they're crucial that you get the right information from them. So that's what I did with the supervisors. From the linemen, sometimes they want to talk, sometimes they don't want to talk. So what I did was I put a memorandum in everybody's mailbox. And I said, hey, look, over the next bunch of weeks, I want to catch up with you one-on-one. I want to talk to you in the hallway. I want you to come see me. I'll eventually come see you. And I asked a series of questions in there. And in the top of my memorandum, I said, look, I've heard a variety of different things, good and bad, through the organization. I want to hear what you have to say. So I asked 5, 6 questions. You know, what goes right, what goes wrong, how do you interface with your supervisor, some of those things. But the key was, those are just starter questions. They can ask me anything they want. They can tell me anything they want. They can talk to me about baseball. You know, I don't want it to be that structured. These conversations have been going very well. I was expecting 15 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes after work sometimes. So, you know, it's been going well. I've been getting a lot of information from these guys. So I've been talking to everybody.
And follow-up question to that. So once you got the information from your supervisors and from your linemen of what the issues were, what was the next step, or what's going to be the next step? Are you going to then ask, okay, you've identified the issues, what do you feel are the proposed solutions, or are you going to propose the solutions and implement it and try and get their buy-in? What's going to be your approach next?
Couple things. One, I'm really not that deep into it. I'm partway through it, so I'm still collecting a lot of that data. 2 is, I ask them, what are you looking for here? What is the solution to this? So I ask them point blank. Sometimes they have an answer, sometimes they don't. But after that, once I collect all this data, the goal is then to see where these trends kind of lay. You know, is this just kinds of onesie-twosies? Is this just this guy doesn't like this guy because of something that happened 30 years ago? You know, that type of thing. Once I get that data, and I hate to say it like a statistical analysis, but you really are. You're looking at what the trends are. Doesn't mean you won't handle certain instances one-on-one, but that's the approach I'm going to take once you collect in that data. And I'm not waiting until the end to do that. You kind of do it as you go. Like I said, it's a longer-term project, but it happens day to day. So that's
Short-term wins along the way.
exact. Short-term wins are the key, especially when you can capitalize on them whenever you can.
Excellent, thank you.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, I think the questions are all very, very good. I tend not to have a whole lot of questions, but just observations
Sure.
and things to share. In terms of the transformation that first came up on your slides there, and you mentioned the fact that, you know, you got the year that you want to make this happen. Transformation, and I guess our HR partners can tell us this or confirm this, is like 3 to 5 years. And so I wouldn't want you to get discouraged if a year goes by and you haven't seen the results that you were looking for. So that's 1. 2, in order to effect that transformation, you have to be a transformational leader. And a transformational leader, and there's a lot of material on that, is kind of coined the servant leader. And so you might want to take some time to read up on that style, because that will help you with your transformation going forward. You mentioned also about the micro-messaging, and that you had this individual was upset for 2 weeks. You know, messaging and the intent can sometimes be confused. And so when you're communicating with your linemen or your frontline supervisors, make sure that it's clear in your mind that what's coming out has the appropriate intent so that it won't be confused like that individual was.
Correct.
So I just want to throw out a couple of nuggets for you to think about.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And from that standpoint, when I put a 1-year time frame on this, it's really from my last bullet, the transformational part of this, the trust building, the efficiency of it,
Right.
it's a lifetime. It's not even, I wouldn't even put a time frame on it. It's constantly evolving. I've never lived one place longer than 3 years, I think, except for once in my life. I'm so used to that. Hopefully that changes. And that's part of the reason why. So that's part of the reason I am so used to it. I'm so comfortable with it. It's okay for me to change. So now I have to make sure that I don't try to change too quick is the biggest thing, and let it happen over time. But make sure it continues to happen. And just one more comment. The book, It's Your Ship by Commander Mike Abershoff, I think it's probably in some of the leadership programs here, one of the best transformational books I've ever read. Very simple messages on how to take care of your people, how to make sure that they're doing what they need to do and removing those barriers. So thank you for that.
Good.
Nice job, Giuseppe.
Thank you.